The air crackled with anticipation. The early morning light cast long shadows across the cobblestones, as if the very stones themselves were holding their breath. A hush fell over St. Peter's Square. The usual bustling energy of the city seemed to pause, replaced by a collective stillness. The faithful, a sea of humanity, craned their necks towards the balcony above, eyes wide with expectation, hearts pounding with a mix of hope and uncertainty. This was not just another papal inauguration. It was a moment that transcended the ordinary, a convergence of history and destiny. This was a moment centuries in the making, the dawn of a new era filled with promise and potential. A new dawn was breaking over the Catholic Church. The first rays of sunlight seemed to herald a fresh beginning. Pope Louis I, the first Asian pontiff, emerged. His presence was a symbol of change, a beacon of hope for millions. A wave of emotion swept through the crowd. Hope mingled with awe, faces lit up with joy, tears of happiness streaming down. Louis I, the former Cardinal Tagle of the Philippines, raised his hand in blessing. His gesture was simple yet profound, a connection to the faithful. His smile was warm, his eyes filled with a quiet strength. It was a moment of serenity amidst the grandeur. But behind the pageantry and the pronouncements, a secret simmered. Whispers of change and transformation echoed through the ancient halls. Rumors of a pact negotiated in the shadowy corridors of the Vatican swirled among the cardinals and diplomats. A pact that could alter the course of history. A pact that promised to reshape the global religious landscape. It was a delicate balance of power and faith. A pact that could usher in a new era of unity or sow the seeds of discord. The stakes were higher than ever. The world held its breath. Every eye was on the Vatican. Every heart beat in unison with the unfolding drama. A new chapter in the long and storied history of the Catholic Church was about to be written. The dawn of a new era filled with hope, promise, and the weight of history. Luis Antonio Tagle was a man of deep faith and even deeper humility. Born in Manila, he grew up immersed in the vibrant Catholicism of the Philippines. His intelligence was evident from a young age, as was his empathy and compassion. Tagle's journey through the ranks of the Church was marked by his intellect and his commitment to social justice. He spoke out against poverty and inequality. He championed the rights of the marginalized. He challenged the Church to live up to its own teachings. His appointment as Archbishop of Manila in 2011 thrust him onto the global stage. Here was a leader who embodied the dynamism and the diversity of the Catholic Church in the 21st century. When Pope Francis elevated him to the College of Cardinals in 2012, it was seen as a sign of things to come. The Church was changing. The world was changing, and Luis Tagle seemed uniquely positioned to lead the faithful into an uncertain future. The death of Pope Francis plunged the Church into mourning, but it also set in motion the ancient rituals that would culminate in the election of a new pontiff. Cardinals from around the world converged on Rome. The doors of the Sistine Chapel closed. The conclave began. Days turned into nights. Smoke, first black then white, billowed from the chimney above the chapel. The world watched and waited, and then a name echoed across St. Peter's Square, Tagle. The crowd erupted. The impossible had happened. An Asian pope. A pope from the developing world, a pope who represented the future of the Church. The weight of history rested on Luis Tagle's shoulders as he took the name Pope Louis I. He inherited a church grappling with challenges both ancient and modern. But in that moment of triumph, all eyes were on the man who had shattered centuries of tradition. Even as the world celebrated the new papacy, whispers began to circulate within the hallowed halls of the Vatican. Whispers of a secret agreement reached during the conclave, an agreement that went far beyond the election of a new pope. The details remained shrouded in mystery. Some spoke of a pact between the Vatican and powerful religious leaders from the East. Others hinted at a grand strategy to unify the world's faiths under a single banner. Still others dismissed the rumors as the fevered imaginings of those who misunderstood the true nature of the Church. But the rumors persisted, fueled by the secrecy surrounding Louis I's first official acts as Pope. He had met privately with ambassadors from several nations, including China and Russia. He had dispatched envoys to religious leaders in India and the Middle East, and he had remained tight-lipped about the purpose of these meetings. The world was left to wonder. What was Pope Louis XI planning, and what had been promised in those hushed conversations behind closed doors? Pope Louis I's background made him a natural bridge between East and West. He understood both the traditions of the Catholic Church and the aspirations of the developing world. He spoke multiple languages, including Mandarin and Arabic, and had traveled extensively throughout Asia and Africa. His election raised hopes for a more inclusive and collaborative approach to interfaith dialogue. Some speculated that the Vatican, under Louis I's leadership, was seeking to build alliances with other major religions to address shared concerns such as poverty, climate change, and religious extremism. The possibility of a formal agreement between the Vatican and other religious institutions, however, remained a source of both excitement and trepidation. Could such an agreement be reached without compromising the core tenets of each faith? And what would be the implications for the future of religious freedom and diversity? The election of Pope Louis I sent shockwaves around the world. News outlets from every corner of the globe covered the event extensively, capturing the attention of millions. People gathered in public squares, homes, and places of worship to watch the announcement, their eyes glued to screens and newspapers. In the Philippines, his home country, there were celebrations in the streets. The atmosphere was electric, filled with joy and pride. Families, friends, and even strangers came together to share in the historic moment. People danced, sang, and waved flags. The streets of Manila were transformed into a sea of color and sound, with traditional music and modern anthems blending seamlessly. They saw in Louis I a symbol of pride, a testament to the global influence of Filipino Catholicism. For many, his election was a validation of their faith and culture, a moment that would be remembered for generations. Across Asia, there was a sense of excitement and anticipation. The news resonated deeply, sparking conversations and celebrations in various communities. Many hoped that Louis I's papacy would lead to a greater understanding of Asian cultures and values within the Church. They envisioned a future where their traditions and perspectives would be more prominently represented. Some even dared to dream of a time when the Vatican might move its seat of power eastward, closer to the heart of the world's fastest-growing Catholic population. This idea, though ambitious, reflected the shifting dynamics within the global Church. Reactions from other parts of the world were more mixed. In some regions, the news was met with cautious optimism, while in others it sparked debates and discussions. Some Catholic leaders expressed cautious optimism, seeing potential for positive change and renewal within the Church, while others voiced concerns about Louis I's relatively liberal views on social issues. They worried about the potential for conflict and division within the Church's ranks. Theological debates erupted over the implications of his election for the future direction of the Church. Scholars and theologians weighed in, offering diverse perspectives on what his leadership might mean. The world watched and waited, eager to see how this new chapter in the history of the Catholic Church would unfold. The anticipation was palpable as people from all walks of life speculated on the changes and challenges that lay ahead. Louis I inherited a church facing challenges on multiple fronts. The institution was at a crossroads, grappling with its identity and role in a rapidly evolving world. Secularism was on the rise in the West, while religious extremism continued to plague many parts of the world. The Church found itself in a delicate position, needing to address both the growing secular mindset and the radical ideologies that threatened global peace. The Church was still reeling from a series of scandals, and internal divisions threatened to undermine its moral authority. These scandals had shaken the faith of many believers, leading to a crisis of trust and credibility that Louis I had to confront head-on. In his first public address as Pope, Louis I spoke of the need for the Church to rediscover its sense of purpose and relevance in the 21st century. He emphasized the importance of adapting to modern times while staying true to the core values that have defined the Church for centuries. He called for a renewed focus on evangelization, particularly among young people who were increasingly disillusioned with organized religion. Louis I believed that engaging the youth was crucial for the future of the Church, as they represented the next generation of believers and leaders. He also emphasized the importance of social justice, urging Catholics to be a voice for the voiceless and to work towards a more just and equitable world. His vision included addressing systemic issues such as poverty, inequality, and the lack of access to basic human rights. He spoke out against poverty, inequality, and the exploitation of the environment. Louis I saw the protection of the planet as a moral imperative, calling for sustainable practices and greater stewardship of the earth. Louis I's vision for the Church was ambitious and challenging. He sought to bridge the gap between tradition and modernity, aiming to create a more inclusive and compassionate church that could resonate with people from all walks of life. It remained to be seen whether he would be able to unite the faithful behind his leadership and navigate the complex challenges facing the Church in a rapidly changing world. The journey ahead was fraught with obstacles, but Louis I's commitment to renewal and reform offered a beacon of hope for many. In the days following his election, Pope Louis I offered few concrete details about his plans for the Church. He spoke in broad strokes, emphasizing the need for dialogue, unity, and a return to the Church's core values. But one phrase, uttered during a homily delivered in the Sistine Chapel, reverberated throughout the world. The Church, he said, must walk the ancient path with new sandals. The phrase was simple yet profound. It spoke to the need for the Church to balance tradition with innovation, to remain true to its roots while also adapting to the realities of the modern world. It was a message of hope and renewal, a call for the Church to embrace the future without forgetting its past. As the sun set on Pope Louis I's first days in office, the world held its breath. The sense of anticipation was palpable. The weight of history, of expectation, rested heavily on the shoulders of this humble man from the Philippines. Would he be a force for unity or division? Would he usher in a new era of peace and understanding? Or would his papacy be marred by the same challenges that had plagued his predecessors? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain, the world was watching, and the legacy of Pope Louis I was still being written. Please subscribe to our channel History Documentary Hub for more insightful videos and intriguing content.